Begin here at 5 o'clock with our homeless crisis. Clatsop County was recently added to the governor's homelessness state of emergency after initially being left out. That came after weeks of petitioning and applying, and ultimately the county succeeded. Good evening, I'm Laurel Porter.
And I'm David Molko. All this means Clatsop County will now qualify for new financial help. Our Blair Best reports from Astoria tonight on the potential impacts on that city's homeless response.
Every day at 12 o'clock, Ozark-Orac feeds about 50 homeless people in Astoria.
We're donated hundreds of pounds of food a week.
Every Tuesday we have pizza.
Rob was homeless and now works at Lifeboat Services, one of the only groups in this corner of Clatsop County dedicated to helping the homeless.
It feels like filling empty bellies. Like, we make people happy. A lot of it makes their day.
Clatsop County was just included in the governor's homelessness state of emergency.
It doesn't make sense in my opinion why we weren't included in the first place, but here we are and we definitely appreciate it.
They had to petition and apply to be included and were recently found to meet the criteria since they declared a local homelessness state of emergency, and the rate of people experiencing unsheltered homelessness last year was 99%, which exceeds the state minimum threshold of 80% or more.
The rates of homelessness per capita are highest in Clatsop County over all of Oregon.
Clatsop County was not the only rural area to ask to be included in the governor's homelessness state of emergency. Wasco County also applied, yet they were denied. The only thing getting in their way was that their rate of unsheltered homelessness last year was 71%, which is less than the state's minimum requirement of 80% or more. Yet they too are suffering from a lack of homeless services.
It's been a little backwards.
Now, with the state's help, this vacant inn off Marine Drive will soon be converted into Astoria's first overnight emergency shelter.
This shelter it's a necessity. They have to have it.
Even if you were to open, say, overnight shelters, would there still be people falling through the cracks? I mean, how many shelters would you need?
There's absolutely going to be people falling through the cracks no matter what we do, but if we don't start somewhere, then nothing's ever going to happen and the problem's only going to get worse.
The governor's office says they will reach out to Clatsop County soon to begin the emergency response. Governor Kotek wants to remind the counties not included in the state of emergency that it doesn't mean they won't receive money through her other investment packages aimed at reducing homelessness statewide. In Astoria, Blair Best, KGW News.
The man accused of shooting 5 people at a racial justice protest is set to plead guilty. That's expected to happen tomorrow in Multnomah County Court. That's according to court filings. Prosecutors say Benjamin Smith attacked during a protest at Northeast Portland's Normandale Park in February of last year. One of the victims, a 60-year-old woman, died. Witnesses said Smith had been harassing the demonstrators before the shooting. He's facing charges for murder and attempted murder.
Well, he is known as the jogger rapist, and tonight 2 of the victims of Richard Gilmore, who was recently released from prison, are speaking out, advocating for changes in laws they say would do much more to protect the public. Our Mike Benner's in Salem tonight. Mike, some of this has to do with determining a sex offender's so-called risk level once they're let out.
Yeah, that's right, David. And I think it's important to point out that these bills are nowhere near becoming law. In fact, they have not yet been scheduled for public hearings. So a long way to go. But I can tell you that the victims of Richard Gilmore, at least 2 of them, are optimistic. They say the way the system is designed today is just not adequate and changes must be made.
It affects you forever.
A tearful Tiffany Edens reflects on her rape at the hands of Richard Gilmore, who was released from his 36-year prison sentence back in December. In fact, you might recall Edens putting up flyers in the Old Town neighborhood, where Gilmore moved into transitional housing as a low-level sex offender. Edens said then, and again Tuesday in Salem, Gilmore is a danger.
He will kill the next victim. He will kill that girl.
That's why Edens and Danielle Tudor, another victim of Gilmore's, worked with state lawmakers on Senate Bills 1022 and 1023. Senate Bill 1022 would require the state to consider almost everything when assigning a risk level to a sex offender, not just what was admissible in court. The bill, among other things, would also require the state to do a better job of letting the public know where a sex offender lives.
These are rapists, they're sex offenders, they're child abusers.
Not enough can be done, Eden says, to protect the public, and Tudor agrees. Gilmore raped her but was never prosecuted for it because it fell outside the statute of limitations at the time. Senate Bill 1023 calls for people like Tudor to be considered a victim and given access to information about their attackers, something Tudor struggled with upon Gilmore's release late last year.
This bill really tackles all the obstacles that we ran into.
Both Tudor and Edens alike say there should be no obstacles when it comes to something like this, and they hope lawmakers on both sides of the aisle see it that way too.
This is not a party issue. I hope that everybody can come on board with this because this is really a community issue and a society issue.
All right, another Senate bill worth mentioning is 9.
All right, that's Mike Benner reporting in Salem tonight. Mike, we appreciate your reporting, even though we lost you right there. Okay, a fire has destroyed a travel center and truck stop east of the Dalles. You can see the flames broke out this morning in Biggs Junction in Sherman County and took volunteer fire crews a few hours to put out. The complex had a mini mart, fast food area, and gas pumps, though thankfully the fire did not spread to the pumps themselves. No word yet on the cause.
An Oregon auction house is removing a Ku Klux Klan hood from the list of items for sale in an auction this week. This follows criticism McLaren Auction Services in Aurora had created a market to profit off a hate item. But owner Gary McLaren says that's not why his company's pulling it. He says his staff was worried about the public reaction. The KKK hood from the early 1900s was up for early bids online, and one person had already bid $30. Anna Harris doesn't think it should be auctioned at all. She's a vintage store owner in Portland and saw the listing while looking for antique items.
It's not a collectible, it's not memorabilia, it's a hate item, and it perpetuates hate, and it, in my opinion, shouldn't be for auction. It shouldn't be for sale. If anything, it should be donated to a museum or something archival. It needs to be preserved as part of history, but it doesn't need to be bought and sold like it's memorabilia, because it's not.
It has nothing to do with hate, and you can turn it and pretend that it has to do with hate, but it really doesn't. It just has to do with America's history, and America's history isn't always pretty.
McLaren said he has sold KKK leaflets or brochures in the past without issue, but never parts of a KKK outfit. He said he likely wouldn't sell KKK items in the future at a public auction, but he could look for private buyers, something he says other auctioneers and collectors do. Let's talk scams and business complaints now. The Oregon Department of Justice just released the top 10 consumer complaints the Attorney General received last year. It's an interesting snapshot of where we all need to be careful in who we hire. Daisy Caballero joins us now with some of the big takeaways. Daisy?
Yeah, Laurel, thank you so much. And for the third year in a row, auto sales and repairs, telecommunications, and imposter scams took the top 3 spots. But here's a look at what else is on that list.
Yeah, I'm not surprised by any of these.
Joanna Wendell is reacting to the Oregon Department of Justice list of the top 10 consumer complaints in 2022.
Health and medical for sure. Travel, yep. Towing, oh boy, do I have complaints about towing.
Attorney General Ellen Rosenblum released the list. Auto sales and repairs, telecommunications, and imposter scams once again made it to the top 3. But a new category this year, towing, with 190 complaints in 2022, something Wendell isn't too shocked by.
Oh, I just think towing's really predatory, and I got towed, and I wasn't able to go get my car for a few hours, and then the price that they quoted on the website went up like $100 by the time I got there, and it's just like, ugh. So that was really annoying.
A 2016 KGW investigation into a Salem-based towing company's aggressive tactics and excessive charges helped promote new laws in Oregon that prohibit towing vehicles from parking facilities unless the towing company is authorized by a signature.
I have been working really hard at the Oregon Department of Justice to do exactly that, to prevent people from falling victim to fraud, scams, all over the state of Oregon.
Earlier this year, the state filed a lawsuit against Retriever Towing, one of the largest towing operations in Oregon. The lawsuit alleges Retriever illegally removed vehicles without authorization by the parking facility.
It lets companies like the towing company that we sued in this particular lawsuit know that we're out there, we're watching, and we are advocating for consumers as much as we possibly can.
Aside from just towing, Clem says there are a number of red flags you can keep an eye out for. When a scammer contacts you out of the blue, or asks you for personal information, or wants you to wire money.
And you can find that flyer that you just saw on your screen and more information on the top 10 consumer complaints on KGW.com later tonight. David Laurel.